the hood champion boxing and sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Terence Crawford, his hunt for greatness has changed as he has now began to hunt for lions. He began to lion hunt, and this is a lion hunt and kill. And people need to understand that. I do not know why people are saying Terence Crawford is scared to fight Errol Spence or Jermell Charlo. I don't know why people are saying Errol Spence is really a 140-pounder that shouldn't be fighting at welterweight. I don't know why people are saying that Terence Crawford doesn't stand a chance against Errol Spence and will get annihilated by small Charlo. Okay, so let's stop with the nonsense. First, if you didn't know about Terence Crawford, we're not talking about what he did to Sean Porter, right? I'm not going to compare Crawford's performance against Porter to Errol Spence's performance against Porter. Styles make fights. Simple. Okay? But what I will tell you is, for those of you who don't know about Terence Crawford, right, this is what frustrates me. You can't say this man's scared of anything or anyone. This is a man who has been shot at 8 times, and one of the bullets hit him in his head. Drove himself to the hospital. Came out the hospital. Instead of exacting revenge on his enemies, decided to seek safe haven in boxing, turn his life around. One of the teachers from when he was in school went on a missionary trip to Africa with her, changed his life, changed his vision, had a street in Omaha named after him, and he refuses to leave Omaha because he feels that he doesn't need to leave his team, leave his environment, and go somewhere else with this high-profile trainer in order for him to achieve greatness that he's already been achieving. So that tells you a lot about Terence Crawford and his mentality and his ability, looking for a chapstick, to find a way to win. Now, I truly believe you either find a way to win or find a way to lose. Terence Crawford, from a very young age, you know, you hear the common story, and I hate to keep pushing that narrative because not every young male comes from that, but poverty, crime-stricken, drug-stricken, no mother, no father, broken home, that kind of shit, right? But with Terence Crawford, a lot of that applies, okay? So it's the truth. But when you think about him and becoming a standout amateur, getting on that amateur circuit, trying to get over there to the Olympics, working underneath Kenny Joe Jackson Porter. Terence Crawford was a bit rambunctious, always causing confrontations, creating commotion. Kenny had to get on him. Terence didn't like it. Terence surprised him and caught him in an alley. This is when Terence was still an amateur and was trying to fight Kenny Porter. Kenny Porter decided not to fight him. And then look to how he is now and how he handles himself. There is a mean streak in that man. So when you think about a person like that, and then you think about how him having to fight Errol Spence or him having to fight Jermell Charlo, can't say he's scared. Okay, so stop with the nonsense. Terence Crawford's not afraid to fight anyone. Then we want to talk about Terence Crawford being too small to fight Errol Spence. Now, if you're just new to boxing, okay, I'm gonna excuse you for talking like this. But if you've been around boxing for a while, you see this? You need to come a little closer so I can give you a good Mike Tyson smack. Most of these guys melt their bodies down to these ridiculous weights so they can have an advantage. Terence Crawford really should be walking around, he really should be fighting at 160. To be honest with you, he's tall, lanky, and there's no meat on those bones. There's no fat on those bones. So at 140, he was killing himself. That's why he went to 147, is contemplating going to 154. But at 147, Errol Spence is doing the same thing. They call them lightweight bullies. He knocked and bullied Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is a man that had deadlifted 500 pounds. I think they even say Terence Crawford benched 315. Boxing is not about weightlifting, but when you have his athleticism, his speed, his ability to fight left and right, and then the power, you got to give Terence Crawford a chance to get in there and take out this first line, which is Errol Spence. Errol Spence has the work rate, but Terence Crawford is already saying if for some reason he can't get the Errol Spence fight, because I have a feeling it's going to be an issue with the purse split, because Terence Crawford is back in training. I don't know if you guys have been following and looking, seeing the clips, seeing the videos, seeing the images. He's back in training. He's getting ready for something. And I personally think if for some reason he and Spence can't sort out the finer details, especially the purse split, a good option for him to get in Jermell. And I want him to fight Jermell. Jermell needs to learn when to talk and when not to talk. And Jermell's an outstanding fighter. But he's just a whole lot of bark. Every time you see him, his older brother is cool. I think the older brother gets involved because the small Charlo is the one that stirs the pot. And then big Charlo comes and tries to, that's his brother, man. That's what he's supposed to do. But sometimes you got to pull him aside and say, look, man, calm down. But I personally feel that when it comes to small Charlo, a really good fight is for Terence Crawford to get up there and fight him. Small Charlo is not going to bully Crawford. Crawford's too smart and too intelligent. Okay? That's the next fight that we have to consider. You got to look at Terence Crawford and some of the guys who he spars. He's sparring heavyweights, just like Jermell and just Errol Spence. But Crawford is doing the same. And everyone says the same thing. But when they spar Crawford, even guys who spar Crawford and Spence, they say Crawford is freakishly strong from his punch and his power. And they say Errol Spence has his output and he hits hard too. But they specifically talk about how strong Crawford is. So see, Errol Spence isn't going to be able to get in there and try to bully him because one, Crawford still has great legs. He's not going to stand there like a damn mannequin, like what Ugas did, and try to catch every punch and counter with someone who's throwing 70 to 100 pounds punches around. Crawford's going to, I'm telling you, he's going to make sure, because it's his job to make sure Errol Spence doesn't get off those kind of punches. He's going to limit him to probably 30 to 60 punches. And also, Errol Spence is going to realize real quick that he can't just come in with no BS on Crawford. Crawford's going to counter him. Crawford's going to let his hands go. Crawford's going to catch him when he's going back. The shots that Ugas hit Errol Spence with, if that was Crawford who landed it, Errol Spence would have been knocked out. Cold. It's just facts, man. There's a lot of Errol Spence fans out there. I like Errol Spence. He eat curry goat like me. You know what I'm saying? But, I'm telling you, if he fights the wrong fight, it's gonna be lights out. He throws too many punches. He leaves too many openings. Crawford can exploit that at any time, and this is the thing. Crawford will throw a shot to your body, throw a shot to your head. He'll lead with the left, lead with the right. He sets traps. Crawford is always setting traps. And when you least expect it, that's when he catches you. You look at when he fought Brook. He damn near knocked Brook out with a damn jab. So there's something in those hands. Look at how Kell Brook bounced back. Now, the downside about these fights, right, is Crawford is getting to some of these guys after some of these guys have been through some pretty rough battles. So he's not getting the credit he deserves because I'm going to say these are damaged goods. You understand? A lot of wear and tear in those vehicles. There's no more manufacturer's warranty on it. You know what I mean? So any type of repair fix is the out-of-pocket cost. That's what some of these fighters have become. You can say they're out-of-pocket costs. But when you look at him and Spence, there's no out-of-pocket cost. Spence been through a lot as well. Everybody, for the most part, knows the story. I'm not going to go and rehash that. But for Spence to be here is a miracle. And for Crawford to be here is a miracle. The man got shot in his head. And that's a pretty big damn deal. So you got Ugas is a miracle, Crawford is a miracle, Spence is a miracle. Jermell is no miracle. He keeps talking about growing up rough and not having certain things. Jermell, I don't know. I mean, we all have a story, don't we? But when you start talking about being shot in the head, we talk about, car accidents and stuff like that, in particular what Spence went through, that's a little bit different. And I'm not trying to say, I'm not trying to, glorify a person's downfall. What I'm saying is, let's put things in perspective. Jermell can't sit there and talk about, His life has been super hard compared to what Crawford went through. A lot of people struggle, but don't start coming here looking for some sob story like you're just a kid with no structure, no guidance. Something worked out because you're here and you're boxing. You've been boxing your whole life, so there was some kind of structure somewhere. So he came from a good household. And when you become a teenager, like most of us, sometimes they're traveling down a path and then the road forks. You can go left, you can go right. If you go left, it's all good, because at a point when you're traveling down that road, it'll fork again. You can go right and get back on path. The problem is when they're traveling, that road forks and you go left, and then that road forks again, you go left, then that's where you have a lot of trouble. And I don't think Jermell had that problem. And that's why I just think when it comes to him, he doesn't have that competitive edge like what Terence Crawford has. Jermell is more just anger. And that's not what it's going to take to win fights. You got to have that competitive edge. I'm not saying he's not competitive. I'm not saying he's going to get in there and he can't get in there and knock Crawford out. But it's going to be very hard for him to get in there and think he's going to bully Crawford. Crawford is not a small individual. Crawford is tall, rangy, can switch hit. He's very accurate with his punches, and he's very smart. And I think that'll be a chess match. I just don't think Jermell's going to get him out of there. Crawford's not Tony Harrison, who's going to come in there and try to box safe and have high guard and make mistakes. Crawford's not going to do that. And I just think when it comes to what's going on right now with Errol Spence and Crawford, and then Jermell, chiming in and saying things, I just think Crawford is the wrong person to poke at. He's just not that person that you want to come and get under his skin. The other thing they talk about Crawford being inactive, and as a result of him being inactive, he doesn't stand a chance against Errol Spence. Well, Errol Spence has been off. He was off for quite some while too, right? And he came back and did very well against Ugas. So we can't talk about all the time off. Terence Crawford has never been a guy that fights 2, 3, 4 times a year. You're lucky if you get him in the ring twice. But whenever he comes out, he always dominates. What needs to happen right now for Terence Crawford is he needs to figure out his promotional deal, what he's going to do. I think he may be trying to self-promote, but it's not that easy. And a lot of these fighters, they learn that. It's not that easy to just come out here and promote yourself and get people to want to come see you just because you're a great fighter. There has to be some kind of marketability. What about Terence Crawford is marketable, aside from him being a phenomenal fighter? I went back and forth with a guy on a thread where I was saying, I made a comment about Terence Crawford not being able to fill up like 10,000 seats. And he was talking about Terence Crawford, put over 9,000 people in the stadium when he fought Amir Khan. Hold on a second now. Amir Khan, no matter where he goes, Amir Khan's going to put butts in seats. I'm talking about Terence Crawford being that kind of pull. Not just in Nebraska. In Nebraska, we know he can fill up a stadium. He's from Omaha. But outside of Nebraska, can Terence Crawford do like Errol Spence? And you know what, Errol Spence in Texas, 40,000, that's no problem. Errol Spence can go anywhere and he can sell out an arena. Jermell may be able to do it. But Crawford, I'm not sure he can do that. We know Tank can. But Crawford needs to get with the right team that can help build him up, his marketability. For the most part, Terence Crawford is invisible. He's not out there really heavily on social media. He's not out there doing anything like Dancing with the Stars or any reality TV. Nothing for people to get to know him. And I respect that. There are other ways to grow your profile, other ways to increase, to boost your platform, other ways to be known. But you have to do something. And Terence Crawford is doing nothing. And that's what I think has really hurt him. The guy is he's a nice person. He's articulate. He knows boxing. He was a standout wrestler. All of his children are athletes. He's married. They're the same woman he's been with. He hasn't left. He has all these great things about him. He's never caught up in any drama. He's living a family man's life. And that's commendable. And that's what you like to see most of these fighters do. But he's a boxer. He has a job. And part of his job is to find a way to connect with people more than just coming to your fight and dominating fighters. If he wants to grow his profile and get the purses if he wants his purse to equal his star potential, he's going to have to get out there, come out of his comfort zone, and start to engage more. That missionary work he did over in Africa, traveling around, he needs to be doing stuff like that. But it got to be more visible. Like, we need to know about it. We need to see it. I don't know who his team is. Get some documentaries on him. Get it out there on, not just on Showtime, any platform. Like, they got to get to work and get the machine behind him and push this man. Eddie Hearn is someone who I think can do it, but they dread going into any management with Terence Crawford because he wants big money. And with his potential, you can understand why, and his accomplishments, you can understand why. But people don't want to pay to see him. He can't sell pay-per-view. So he needs these big fights. I think if he gets in there with Errol Spence and he clips him, especially if he knocks him out, that may be the fight that changes the game for him. Especially, you look at what happened with Floyd Mayweather when he clipped De La Hoya. Now, a lot of us are saying, shit, we didn't need to see Floyd clip De La Hoya. When you saw what he did to Chico Corrales and Arturo Gatti, those fights, if you haven't seen them, first of all, watch the first 20 Floyd Mayweather fights. Pretty boy. You're going to see talent beyond comprehension. Oscar De La Hoya, talent beyond comprehension. Felix Trinidad, talent beyond comprehension. Shane Mosley, talent beyond comprehension. Like, you watch that and you can't believe what you're seeing. That's how talented they were. Floyd is a notch above that. But it took for him to come and clip the Golden Boy, for him to gain all the fame, the Dancing with the Stars. The money started pouring in. He broke lock with Bob Arum, started doing his own thing, and he never turned back. I think this right here could be the breakout fight for Terence Crawford. Yeah, he's done great at 140. He came and he clipped people at 147 and a couple big names, but he's not where he needs to be as far as being able, his promotion, him being able to be promoted the way these guys want, his marketability, and as a result, his not buying power. What he expects to get paid isn't gonna ever meet what he's demanding. There's got to be the right supply and there's got to be a demand. So, what he supplies is a whole lot, but there's just not much of a demand for him. And outside of diehard boxing fans, so I really think if for some reason he can't make that Errol Spence fight, which I think Spence clips him. I do. Not Spence. I think Crawford beats Errol Spence. I do. I think he just gonna use his range and distance, let his shots go, and I think when he hits Errol Spence, he's gonna hurt him. And if for some reason that fight doesn't get made and Jermell can get through Castano, I think after he clips Spence, a great thing for him to do is move up, which he says he's gonna do anyway, and go in there and he would get that fight. Because if Jermell beats Castano, if he beats him, he's gonna have all the belts, right? He's gonna be undisputed at 154, but he's gonna have mandatories. But if Crawford goes up to 154, he's gonna leapfrog those mandatories. Those organizations are gonna make exceptions to make that fight. You're talking about Crawford now being the undisputed at 140, undisputed at 147, now going up and banging against Jermell for undisputed at 154. That's history. Now, if Errol Spence gets in there, beats Crawford, he and Jermell will never fight. Errol Spence will just drop the belts and go on to 154 and I guess try to figure it out. But why go to 154 if you don't want to fight Jermell and Jermell has all the belts? So you see, as much as he doesn't want to fight Jermell and as much as Errol Spence really wants to unify and move up and get more belts, he's going to have to fight. He's going to have to fight Jermell. What's he going to do? Go up there and fight Castano? That's actually a good fight because it's history. Because Castano beat Errol Spence in the amateurs. But when you look at these three, there are fights to be made here. Spence and Crawford, Charlo and Crawford, Spence and Charlo. Crawford and Charlo, and then Spence and Charlo. There's some fights to be made here. The problem is Derek James is going to have to pick. And gonna roll with Spence, but he doesn't want that to happen. But Errol Spence doesn't mind. See, that's the thing. A lot of people need to understand. You better listen to what Errol Spence says. What all these guys say. The only one talking about they don't want that fight to happen between Spence and Charlo is Charlo and Derek James. Spence doesn't care. Spence is a rude boy, man. Like, he doesn't care. He's like, I'll fight him. That's what brothers do. They break bread. And them guys will make a lot of money. But somebody's got to lose. And I don't know who. They know. They sparred together. This is like Tyson Fury and Dillian White. They know each other. They know who's going to lose that fight. I personally don't know who would lose that fight. But I think with Terence Crawford, I think Terence Crawford beats Spence and Charlo. That's what I think. I know some people out there cussing at the screen right now, but I do. I think he's just out here on the lion hunt now. They done pissed him off, and he's on the lion hunt. And he's going to go out there with his muscat and go out there and put some bullets in these guys, some rat-a-tat-a-tat-a in these guys, man. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on these guys. Don't sleep on Crawford. I really do feel, man, he wants that fight with Spence. I think the purse split is going to be an issue, but I think they can actually figure it out. When you're a mandatory, which Crawford is not, but when you're a mandatory, you're supposed to get at minimum 40 to 45% of the purse. That's why Dillian White was so pissed off when it comes to Tyson Fury. You're supposed to get, that's the rules. So when you look at Crawford be having a title, you're looking for an undisputed distinction, and you bring those guys together. The 80-20 is not going to fly. The 70-30 may not fly, even though it seems fair because Spence has 3 damn belts. Crawford has 1. Okay? But they need to really come around, like I think, to make this fight happen like a 60-40. Right? I think that is going. That's the sweet spot. But if Errol Spence doesn't want to budge, you got to blame him for ducking because that means he's scared. Okay? Errol Spence is scared if he doesn't take 60-40. And if Crawford says no, 55-45, he's scared because he's lucky he's not getting 70-30. 60-40 is the sweet spot. They need to settle for that, push and make the fight. And if they can't make the fight, Crawford, drop your belt, go up to 154. We'll take a little stay busy fight. Charlo beats Castaño, go up to 154 and fight for the undisputed. That's what I think. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you watching the video. I appreciate your support. Like and subscribe. Shout out to all the veterans. And as always, I'm in the breeze.